The Jewish tribes of Arabia were ethnic groups professing the Jewish faith that inhabited the Arabian Peninsula before and during the advent of Islam. It is not always clear whether they were originally Israelite in ancestry, genealogically Arab tribes that converted to Judaism, or a mixture of both. In Islamic tradition, the Jewish tribes of the Hejaz were seen as the offspring of the ancient Israelites. According to Muslim sources, they spoke a language other than Arabic, which Al-Tabari claims was Persian. This implies they were connected to the major Jewish center in Babylon. Certain Jewish traditions records the existence of nomadic tribes such as the Rechabites that converted to Judaism in antiquity. Tribes. Some of the Jewish tribes of Arabia historically attested include History of Immigration. Contemporary researchers have pieced together a mosaic of Judaized Arabian tribes, but we have little evidence that Judaism found its place in the Arabian Peninsula by immigration of Jews, which took place mainly during 5 periods: after the collapse of Kingdom of Judah in 586 BCE, after the Roman conquest of Judea, after the Jewish rebellion in 66 CE, and the destruction of Jerusalem by Titus in 70 CE. Exiles found a home in the desert. Survivors of the Bar Kokhba revolt in 135 CE, who sought religious freedom in the Arabian desert rather than live under the yoke of the Romans. Immigration around 300 CE, by people who are known in Islamic literature as the Banu Oz and the Banu Khazraj, who fled the Ghassanids in Syria. Migration from Judea into southern Arabian Peninsula to ride the ascent of the Himyarite kingdom around 380 CE. Arabised Jews. The Sanaite Jews have a legend that their ancestors settled in Yemen 42 years before the destruction of the First Temple. According to Jeremiah, some 75,000 Jews, including priests and Levites, traveled to Yemen. The Banu Haban in southern Yemen have a legend that they are the descendants of Judeans who settled in the area before the destruction of the Second Temple. These Judeans supposedly belonged to a brigade dispatched by King Herod to assist the Roman legions fighting in the region. The Himyarite royal family in exile commanded vast wealth and resources, particularly the Nabatean Bedouin with whom they had controlled the market of trade by land from northeast Africa for centuries. By the close of the 5th century, the Banu Oz and Banu Khazraj had become masters of Yathrib. During these events, or possibly in coordination with them, Yathrib was host to a noble visitor. In 470 CE, Persian king Feroz was attempting to wipe out the exilic the exilic Hunavi, who was the son of Marzutra. Marzutra whisked his daughter and some of his entourage to Yathrib for safety. Judaized Arabs. In about 400 CE, Himyarite king Tabar Abu Arabised Kamel, a convert to Judaism, led military expeditions into Central Arabia and expanded his empire to encompass most of the Arabian Peninsula. His army had marched north to battle the Aksamites, who had been fighting for control of Yemen for 100 years. The Aksamites were only expelled from the region when the newly Jewish king rallied Jews together from all over Arabia with pagan allies. The relationship between the Himyarite kings and the polytheistic Arab tribes strengthened when, under the royal permission of Tabar Abu Arabised, Qusay ibn Kilab reconstructed the Kaaba from a state of decay, and had the Arab al-Kahinan build the houses around it. Qusay ibn Kilab was the great-great-grandfather of Shaiba ibn Hashim. Shaiba ibn Hashim was fifth in the line of descent to Muhammad, and attained supreme power at Mecca. Qusay ibn Kilab is among the ancestors of Sahaba and the progenitor of the Banu Quraysh. When Qusay came of age, a man from the tribe of Banu Qusay named Halal was the trustee of the Kaaba, and the NASA authorized to calculate the calendar. Qusay married his daughter and, according to Halail's will, obtained Halail's rights to the Kaaba. Halail, according to Arabian tradition, was a member of the Banu Juram. Banu Juram was a subgroup of the Banu Qahtani from whom the Himyarites originally descend. Around 455 CE, the last Himyarite king is born, Zara Yusuf ibn Tuban Asad Abu Caleb Dunuwas. He died in 510. His zeal for Judaism brought about his fall. Having heard of the persecutions of Jews by Byzantine emperors, Dunuwas retaliated by putting to death some Byzantine merchants who were traveling on business through Himyara. He didn't simply kill them with hanging, he burned them in large pits, earning him the title King of the Burning Pit. These killings destroyed the trade of Yemen with Europe and involved Dunuwas in a war with the heathen king Adug, whose commercial interests were injured by these killings. Dunuwas was defeated, then he made war against the Christian city Najran in Yemen, which was a dependency of his kingdom. After its surrender, he offered the citizens the alternative of embracing Judaism under coercion or being put to death. As they refused to renounce the faith, he executed the chief, Harith ibn Caleb, and 340 chosen men. Rise of Islam. The Jewish tribes played a significant role during the rise of Islam. Muhammad had many contacts with Jewish tribes, both urban and nomadic, and apparently was influenced by Judaism. His early teachings seems to borrow from Jewish tradition. Muhammad could neither write nor read, and history attests to this fact. However, when the Jews began to distance themselves from Muhammad, not recognizing him as a prophet, he started to minimize the Jewish influence on Islam, shifting the direction of prayers from Jerusalem to Mecca, making Friday a holy day, and shifting from the Jewish dietary laws. Although the eating of pork has always been strongly prohibited in both religions, which contradicts the suggestion that he aimed to only oppose them, it is noteworthy to mention that the holy day of Friday was never considered holy in the sense it is to Jews, and although Islamic and Jewish dietary laws share many similarities, the two sets of rules are not identical nor equal. The shift of the prayer direction from Jerusalem to Mecca can be viewed from a religious perspective, as a divine test from Allah to distinguish the true believers that followed the Prophet Muhammad, for those who would turn their back on the Prophet of Allah. In 622 CE, Muhammad, hoping to capitalize on Jewish Arab despondency at successive military defeats, abandonment by Persian Jews, loss of Jerusalem, the murder of the exilic Ni'amah ben Hashiel, and the renewed opposition of the Banu Quraysh, set out for Taif. Muhammad worked hard to turn the hearts of the Jewish Arabian and pagan tribes from the Jewish prophecies and pagan beliefs respectively, hoping that the Jewish Arab tribes waiting for redemption at the hands of a Messiah would receive him well. But when Muhammad arrived in Taif, and called upon the Jewish tribes to hear his teachings, he was rejected. In late 622 CE, Shalom ben Hashiel went to visit Muhammad in Medina, and offered his submission. With the submission of an exilic, Muhammad found resistance to submission by some Judaized Arab tribes begin to wane. Some of these tribes, or some of the members, were conquered and converted to Islam. Some lived as crypto-Jews, while others remained Jews living among Muslims though protected by the Constitution of Medina. After 624, the Banu Qanokha, the weakest tribe, which was composed of craftsmen, suffered persecution from Muhammad and left with the possessions to Dara, Syria.